Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoons, everybody. Welcome back to English debate. Okay, today we would like to discuss about the other topics in our lessons. It is about the propositions, or usually we call it as motion. Okay, in this part, we will talks about the definitions of propositions, and then the basics and the kind and the development of the position. But in this session, we would like to limit ourselves into the only definition, basic, and kinds. And next week we go to the development, how to develop the proposition or the motion. Okay. Now we go to the definition. What is a proposition? A proposition here is a statement to be proved. So it is the statement that needs a proof, not just statements without any evidence or without proof. It should be proof. The other names of propositions is motions or resolution. Usually we use motions. Okay. Next. So this is the basic of proposition. Because proposition is a statement to be proved, so in the prepositions it should be debatable. Yeah, it should be debatable because there will be two sides that will prove something to be wrong or something to be right, etc. They stand in the different positions, so it should be debatable. Okay. The prepositions that cannot be debated is wrong prepositions. Okay. So for example here, human needs oxygen to live. So this preposition is not debatable. We cannot debate that. It is a kind of a common truth that everybody agree that oxygen is needed for human to live. So it is the bad example of preposition because it doesn't have the debatable topics. And then the second, the preposition should entail only one statement for affirmative to prove. Okay. We need only one keywords to be proved. Okay. We cannot give a preposition more than one. For example, this one. Information should be free and available to everyone. It is very difficult to prove because the team should prove the information that not only free but also available. Okay, so it should be only one. For example, information should be free to everyone, for example, like that, without giving another variables or giving another keywords. Okay, so only one statement. Next, the preposition should have enough arguments on both sides so that the debate is fair. Okay, so try to avoid the propositions that give much advantage to the certain side. Okay, so for example here, HIV/AIDS is not so dangerous as imagined. So this is very difficult for the positive teams or the government to prove it that HIV/AIDS is not so dangerous, while for the opposition it is really easy to prove it because we know that HIV/AIDS here is the very deadly virus and it leads to the death. Okay, while for the proposition to prove that HIV/AIDS is not so dangerous is very difficult. So it is unfair because each side doesn't have enough proof, enough resources, material to prove it. Next, the topic must hold interest of the debater over the course of debate periods. Okay, it means that sometimes we have the old-fashioned topics, or the topics that is not relevant for today's, or it is so strange that the debaters will be difficult to have a resource or to give a proof. For example, here, pager cause user depression. It is not a good topic. It is not a good preposition, because pager is no longer used today. So for the debater, it is very difficult, and it is not interesting for the debaters, because today's debaters don't know about the pager. They know about smartphones, but pager, they don't know it, because they don't live in that era where the pager is still used. Okay, that is the basic of preposition, that the good preposition should be debatable, that the good prepositions should only have one variable, one statement to be proved, and then the preposition should give enough argument for both, or the preposition must fair. And then the last, that prepositions must gain the interest, that the debater should be interested with that motions, that the debaters are familiar with that motions, not the something that so long ago or old-fashioned that cannot be reached by the debaters. Okay, that is the basic of preposition. Next, what kinds of preposition? We have three kinds of the proposition. The first is proposition of fact, the second is proposition of value, and the third is proposition of policy. Now let's go to each of those propositions. First, the proposition of fact. Proposition of fact is a statement that can be proved using some kind of measurement. So you need a good measurement here. In other words, to prove that something is true or not true, you need a measurement. You need a good evidence. Okay. So preposition in fact here, your works when you have, as a debater, when you have this kind of preposition, all you got to do just prove whether it is true or not by give the clear measurement, by the give the good evidence. So in these kinds of prepositions, you need what we call as an objective statement. Yeah, the statement that based on the observable events or measurable fact. It is not a kind of subjective statement. It is not just like a gossip, etc. But the statements need to be proved. The statement have data. The statement supported by the experts, etc. Yeah. For example, when you want to talk about coronavirus in this proposition, you need to back up, you need to support that statement with the opinion of the expert, with the data, etc. For example, you can say that coronavirus is deadly disease. To make this statement objective, you need to support it with the evidence from the data, from the expert, etc. For example, from the data of the mortality rates, it's always raised up, for example, like that. Or it caused so many people died in all over the world, for example, like that. Okay, and it's proved by the statistic from WHO, for example, or it is proved from the Indonesian's Ministry of Health if these cases happen in Indonesia. Okay. Next, you need objective verification. Okay, objective verification here when when you use the agreed measurement to prove the truth of the statement. So the measurement should be objective. You cannot use the, for example, people said that blah 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 blah. You cannot say according to my neighbor. No, you cannot say that like that. You need an objective measurement. For example, measurements from the expert, measurement from the statistic, measurement from the legitimate institutions. Yeah, for example, if you want to talk about the coronavirus, you need to give measurement from the doctor, you need measurement from the expert of the virology, you need data from the Ministry of Health or from United Nations, especially WHO, who organize, who deals with these kinds of pandemic. Okay, that is objective verification. Then the third, your statement should be and your proof should be valid. The valid here means that between your statement and the measurements match. Okay, so when your statement said that coronavirus is deadly, and then you give the support data from the WHO that said that almost millions of people died, for example, like that, it proved that it is deathly. Now, when the proof and the statement here is matched, that's what we call as valid. Okay. Invalid is the opposite, when the statement and the measurement proves wrong. Okay. So in these kinds of propositions, you need a strategy that different from other kinds of proposition. That is, you need the factual interpretation. Yeah, factual interpretation that's supported by scientific report, statistic, expert statement, etc. So your interpretation of the proposition here is not subjective. Yeah, it is objective. It is proved and supported by the objective verifications, that by the data, by the statistic, by the expert. Okay. So next, to make your propositions, to make your arguments good, yeah, you need to first give a majority of example, give a lot of example, okay, to make or to strengthen your argument when you have these kinds of motion. And then you need also a great number of evidence. Okay, you need lots of statistic